Hello YouTube, this is John, Too Tall for Baseball again, with another lesson on the double stroke roll. Now I've had another lesson before on YouTube about the double stroke roll. Today I want to focus just on the bounce part. There are two different type of rolls. There are a long roll where you start slow, you're going to start with single strokes each hand, and then you're going to transition to double strokes where you're bouncing each hand, like this. This is single strokes. Single, single, double. Bouncing the strokes, bouncing the sticks. Double stroke, bouncing. Now I'm going to make a transition back to single strokes. Double, 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 double. Single, single. These are single strokes. Now, a single stroke, you're just going to hit the drum each time with a separate stroke. This is a single stroke. Single, single, single. My hand goes up and down with each time I hit the drum. For every time I hit it, it moves one time. As opposed to a bounce stroke where I'm going to hit it and let the stick bounce. Like this. One stroke, two notes. Okay? That's a bounce stroke. The difficulty with the long roll is that you've got to make a transition between the single strokes and the double strokes, like this. Single, single, double. Double, 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 double. Single. The idea is to be able to make this transition smoothly so you don't hear a difference between the single strokes and the double strokes. So I'm going to do this over and over again, single to double and then double to single. Single, double. Now, there's an easy way to practice this and then there's a hard way to practice this. I'm going to show you the easy way to practice it. The easy way is to make this transition early so you don't play single strokes too fast. Here's what I'm talking about. Single, 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 double. Single, single, double. Now the key is to be able to play a double stroke roll at a slow tempo. That's actually kind of hard to do. However, it's easier to do it that way than trying to play singles fast and make that transition to doubles like this. Single, 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 double. Now I see guys teaching lessons where they're focusing on playing a long roll where they hit the metronome and they go single, single, and then they do this for quite a while, and then they crank up the metronome more, you go faster, and all the whole time you're just playing singles. Those are all singles. They're not doubles, okay? So if you're wanting to improve your doubles, your double stroke roll, your bounce strokes, you have to play bounce strokes, not single strokes. This is what I'm talking about. Here's slow bounces. I'm bouncing the stick. Okay, so the only way that you're going to improve your double stroke roll is to actually bounce the sticks. When you're playing the long roll, you have to make the transition between singles to doubles. Actually, that's one of the harder things to learn when you're learning a long roll, is the transition between the singles and the doubles. Okay? Now in this video, I want to focus a whole lot more on just double strokes. rather than the long roll. And I want to focus on an easy method to learn this. Now, there are a lot of videos out on YouTube that demonstrate the accent of the secondary beat on your doubles. Actually, I learned how to play that 44 years ago when I first started playing. I used that method. However, it's difficult to learn, but you have to make a transition between accenting the secondary notes and the actual long or double stroke roll. So this is what I'm talking about. This is the method that's out there, and there are great players everywhere who suggest this method, and that's fine. That's the way I learned again. However, it's not the easiest method, and the goal of this video is for all you guys who haven't played very much to learn the easier method, and for all you teachers out there to use this easier method to teach your students. Okay, here we go. So here's the secondary beat method when they accent the second note. Okay, now that's kind of tough to play. There are times when you need to use that, like if you're playing, let's say, shuffle beats. Okay, I'm actually accenting that secondary beat, and that's fine. Okay, so if I'm going to play a shuffle beat with both hands, okay, you might want to use that secondary accent. I would like to say for all the beginners out there, don't try to learn how to play drums totally on YouTube. You need to find a teacher somewhere who can work with you and see what your hands are doing, and so you can get feedback from one person who can see exactly what you're doing, all right? You go on YouTube, you're going to find lots of different guys who play a lot of different ways. Some guys play more of the rudimental style, some guys play more of a drum set style. I play more of a rudimental style. When I say that, I'm talking about my grip is like this. I don't do any open and close or push, pull. I don't do any of that technique. Some guys do, and it works for them. This is my grip here. From the end of the tip of the stick to my pinky is 1.5 inches. And for my traditional grip, it's 3.5 inches from the very tip to where my hand is, okay? So, but I play basically, my hand will be like this all the time. It doesn't open and close. That to me is extra motion, and it's wasted motion for me. Now, for guys who play a lot of real fast ride patterns, on a ride pattern you might play a different way, you might open and close it more, that's fine. But what I'm focusing on is how this relates to a double stroke roll, okay? So, again, if you're a beginner, don't try to learn how to play drums only on YouTube. Get you a teacher, and if you see some stuff on YouTube that you like, go ahead and try it. Now I want to talk about what beginners do when they start to play a double stroke roll. I'm going to compare poking versus stroking, okay? This is what beginners typically do. Okay, that's typically what all beginners sound like that. They all do the same thing. They're poking at it. Now, when they do that, they're just throwing the stick at the drum, and they're not allowing the stick to bounce much, okay? They're poking it. This is poking. Now, what I want to teach you is stroking it. What I'm doing here is following through the drum. I want you to pretend that the actual drum head is 3 inches lower than what it really is. So you're having to bend your wrist a little bit more, or what I call breaking your wrist. Same thing. Okay? Act as if the drum is 3 inches lower than what it really is. So now it causes me to bend my wrist a little bit more. And I'm going to hit and follow through. And I'm going to pick the stick up. Now, I'm not throwing the stick at the drum. I'm not playing just down. I'm playing down and up. Okay? Down and up. Follow through. Following through. Poking. Stroking. Poking. Stroking. Same with the left hand. Poking. Stroking. Following through. Following through. Act as if the head is actually 3 inches lower than what it really is. Poking versus stroking. Now, a lot of guys, a lot of great players talk about this secondary beat when they're trying to teach you how to smooth out your double stroke roll. Actually, that's a tough lick to play. If you were to put it together, it's a little easier to learn this way. But either way you look at it, if you're trying to straighten up your double stroke roll and make it even, at some point you actually don't even play this way when you get it up to tempo. See, now I'm not using any secondary accent at all, okay? I'm not using that at all. Only thing I'm using is wrist. My wrist bends and I'm following through. And I'm not doing anything at all with my fingers. Nothing at all. I have to emphasize that when you're learning how to play this. Don't do anything with your fingers at all. You're working with the rebound off the head, alright? Okay, I'm not doing anything with secondary accents there, okay? There's not time. There's no time to do that. These guys that teach this method, what I think oftentimes they do, they forget, hey look, they learned it 30 years ago or 40 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever it was, but they forget to tell you there's a transition spot in there where you have to go from accenting that second note to no longer accenting it. When I'm playing this double stroke roll, and we all play the same, all of us play the same. When we get to this tempo, there's no time for the secondary accent, no time. So we have to make a transition. Just like the long roll, we made a transition from single strokes to double strokes. Okay? With the double stroke roll, if you're doing the secondary accent method, you have to transition to a point where you're no longer using that. I know I've seen some questions before with guys doing this, and they say, well, okay, I can do this. How do I work up my speed? Well, that's a bad way to look at it, and they wouldn't know any different because they haven't been exposed to anything different. However, at some point you don't do that. There's not enough time to do that anymore. So you transition to just stroking the drum. Stroke, 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 stroke. Now, for what it's worth, I don't use that secondary accent at all. When I learned that 40 plus years ago, it's like learning to ride a bike. Once you get on the bike and you figure out, hey look, I got to go a little bit faster to stay on the bike. I can't go slow and pedal. That's hard to do for anybody. So you have to learn, hey look, there's a minimum speed I have to go to keep the bike going. That's the same with that secondary accent beat, whatever. Once you get the doubles even, there's no need anymore to practice this. You don't need that anymore, okay? So I've played in high school drum lines, college drum lines, and I played in the Marine Corps for nearly 5 years. So I've got pretty close to 13 years marching band experience, and I can tell you that we never, not the first time, practice this. Not the first time. That's a way to learn it, but it's difficult to learn that way. And if you haven't played for very long, you won't know what to do. Or you figure, hey look, I got to play even faster with this that's awfully hard to play, and it's really practically impossible to play at a fast tempo. So what do? I'm stuck. So the answer is to learn how to stroke the drum, okay? Stroking the drum. Now, you can also call it hot potato. I like to term it hot potato as well, where I'm going to go down and then pick the sticks up. Okay? So when you're first learning how to do this, you need to do one hand at a time. Most everybody is right-handed, so let's do the right hand. Your left hand is going to be weaker, so you have to spend more time with your weaker hand. When I say weak, I'm not talking about strength, I'm talking about coordination. Okay? Okay, again, I'm not doing anything with a secondary beat. Nothing, no secondary accent at all. Alright? I'm stroking the drum. Now I'm going to put them together. Now I'll do this for 15 to 20 minutes. Each hand and then together. I'm playing loose. I'm not snapping the fingers. I don't have it open and closed. I have one basic grip I use. I use that slow, I use that fast. It's the same all the way through. That's easier to learn than learning open and close, where you at a slow tempo you play open and close, and then later on you start to close it up. To me that's a waste of time and a waste of motion. So I don't do it that way. Now, if you can play a roll slowly, okay, without accenting the secondary accent, then there's no need ever to learn that secondary accent when you're learning a double stroke roll. Now, if you want to use that secondary accent, there's other applications for it. One guy who's a master at it is Dave Garibaldi, who plays Tower of Power. If you get a chance to listen to some Tower of Power, he does that stuff constantly, and that's fine. That's where it's best used. But it's not necessary to use that method when you're learning a double stroke roll. Now, I'm going to play the bounce roll slowly. Now, this is going to be 16th notes. This is 84. Now, believe it or not, it's hard to play this slow. But my sticks are bouncing. These are 16th notes. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a... Now, that's hard to do, as opposed to playing that same thing, let's say, that's 98, 16th notes. Okay, that's kind of like the bicycle. When you first get on a bicycle, you're trying to go real slow. That's a lot harder to keep your balance to stay on the bike, rather than going a little bit faster, where let's say almost running speed, where it's automatically, suddenly now you can get your balance easier. Okay, so but if you want to play a double stroke roll smoothly, you'll need to learn how to play it slowly as well as faster. And believe it or not, the slower part is more difficult. Now I'm focusing on playing through the drum, okay? Through the drum. I'm playing with follow through. I'm not playing at secondary accent, okay? If you play the secondary accent, you're going to eventually at some point have to unlearn that, and there's no really need to do that, okay? I'm going to use one technique that I'll use all the way through, from slow to fast. And that's follow through. Slow, 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 slow. Slow. This is slow bouncing. If you can do this, it's easier to play a little faster. But again, I don't have time for the secondary accent, alright? It's all played with follow through, playing through the drum, as if the drum were 3 inches lower than what it really is. Okay? I don't have time at this tempo to do anything with secondary accents. Well, I hope that's helped you out. If you have any questions, let me know. I know there are a lot of teachers out there who swear by the secondary accent deal, you know, but that's the hard way to learn. The easier way to learn is to learn what you're actually going to do when you're playing the role. Follow through, follow through. Now, for what it's worth, when I learned a double stroke roll back 44 years ago, I never ever went back to this again. There was no need for that. Now, I did practice this, trying to make that secondary note equal to the primary note, okay? But I did it a different way. I did it the way I'm going to end up playing anyway. So, the skill to me is being able to play a double stroke roll slowly, but use just one technique all the way through. Now, when you start playing paradiddles and sticking patterns, this, that, and the other, you have to be able to have that double stroke smooth. Okay? You don't have time to do anything with a secondary accent at all. Okay, so all of that has to be played with a follow through. Follow through, follow through, follow through. Okay? I hope that's helped you out a lot. Let me know again if you have questions.